Caseus. Clone Wars Chronicles. Book 2. Corbyn Roth. Part 1. Front Lines.
Push through! Go, go, go!
The skies of Caseus filled with ash and smoke as the forces of the Republic and the armies of the Confederacy battled in the wastelands. Commander Corbyn Roth of the Jedi Order stood on the front lines with his soldiers in the 111th Attack Battalion, holding their ground as best as they could as they pushed through the endless hordes of mindless droids. Behind their forces, the capital city of Caseus stood proud and tall in the distance. If they failed to stop the advancing droid army, the city would be taken, and Caseus would be forced to surrender. From the sky, air support did what they could to thin out the front lines of the Separatists, but the advancing droid tanks proved a dangerous hazard, as many of their LAAT transports were shot down, one of which crashed down upon the droids, causing a brief stagger in their advance. Corbyn saw this and held his saber high, ushering his soldiers forward.
Form ranks! Charge!
The 111th charged forward, screaming their battle cries and opening fire upon the battle droids. Corbyn ran alongside his men, wincing in pain from a prior injury the day before, but pushing through the pain as he deflected the oncoming plasma bolts. The closer they advanced, the more of his men he saw meet their end beside him.
Taz, on your left!
Taz, one of the 111th's quickest draws, was not quick enough to notice the ion blast from the cannon that ripped through him and sent his brothers and Corbyn flying back. Corbyn landed with a thud on the hard ground, wanting desperately to stay down for even a moment to catch his breath, but he didn't. Hauling himself up, he wiped the blood from his lip and rallied his men as they pushed forward. Air support made another run, destroying the tanks and taking out groups of droids as they did so. Soon, Corbyn and the 111th were seemingly facing a wall of blaster fire. The noise, the flashes, the screams, and the sounds of carnage made Corbyn squirm, but he pushed. He pushed harder. When he couldn't give any more, he reached deeper and drove himself forward. The droids were thinning out. Soon, they had forced the Separatist army to retreat to their transports, as cheers and cries of victory rang out from the 111th. Corbyn breathed heavily, his mechanical hand locked tightly around his still-ignited weapon. Then he shut it off and sat down. Just for a moment. Looking around, he saw the battlefield littered with pieces of obliterated droids and the bodies of his clone comrades. Slowly, he stood and approached a few clones who were looking at someone in the dirt. Taz, or what remained of him. Corbyn stared in a numbing sorrow as he bent down and put his hand on the blue and yellow helmet of his fallen soldier. The sound of LAATs broke the deadening silence as the clone gunships landed. Stepping off one of them was Master Terran.
Master?
Report, Padawan.
We've driven back their forces. Caseus is safe.
For now, at least. Are you hurt?
Bit banged up. I just need a little rest.
No time for that just yet, Corbyn. Tend to the injured. After they're secured, help load the fallen and report back to base.
What about you?
I have to speak with Governor Ludovec in the capital and discuss Caseus' alignment with the Republic. I'll meet you back at base.
Corbyn sighed and looked at the battlefield.
Corbyn? Is something wrong?
No, Master. I'll see you back at the base.
Master Terran nodded and reboarded the LAAT as Corbyn watched from below. Soon the ship disappeared from sight, and Corbyn spent the next several hours tending to the wounded and loading the fallen onto large carts and taking them to the large graves prepared for them. He was almost numb to it at this point. Almost. It killed him inside to watch so many good soldiers be blasted away like nothing.
Commander Roth.
Corbyn turned to Omen, captain of the 111th.
You seem distracted, sir.
I'm all right, Captain. Just tired is all.
Well, when we get back to base, you can rest. Let's finish with the bodies.
Corbyn winced a bit at the lack of condolence in Omen's voice.
Bodies? Captain, these men were your brothers. They all died to keep this planet safe from the Separatists.
Omen looked blankly at Corbyn.
Yes, they did. That was their job. They followed through and served their purpose.
Corbyn was shocked at Omen's words.
That's all you think your purpose is? To die in battle?
Omen stepped closer,
Commander, when we shout for the Republic in battle, we mean it. We live for the Republic. We fight for the Republic, and we die for the Republic. It's who we are. It's what we were bred for.
Corbyn looked into the grave as a large body of dirt was thrown on top of the fallen clones. Corbyn looked into the visor of one of their helmets until it was completely covered. Omen looked at Corbyn.
We're soldiers, Commander. Nothing more, nothing less. It's who we are. I'll prep the ship.
Corbyn continued staring at the mound of dirt for a while, until slowly, he stepped on board one of the transports, as it carried them to their base camp just outside of the city limits. Night fell. Corbyn sat alone, his ration box sitting on his lap. He looked from the gleaming city lights into the empty wastes. He hadn't eaten since the day before, but he had no appetite. The metal cup of red juice only made him think of the bloodshed he had seen earlier. It made him think about everything that had happened since the start of the war a few months prior. His training increased tenfold. He was made a commander to the 111th Attack Battalion, and since then, he had seen more death and horrible warfare than he had any desire to. Yet here he was, stuck on a world he didn't know, defending people he had never met from an outside threat that was taking more lives every day. He wondered if Caseus was having these same problems. He hadn't spoken to his best friend in a while, much less Sarah. He missed them both. He wanted to be back home on Coruscant, at least for a few days. But it seemed every time the 111th was due to return to Coruscant for a bit, a new threat arose that required their assistance all the way across the galaxy. He was exhausted, but any sleep he got was plagued with nightmares and cold sweats. It's all for the good of the galaxy, he would tell himself. Yet as the war raged on, he started to question if he truly believed it. As Corbyn opened his mouth, about to force down a ration bar, he sensed a presence nearby. An unfamiliar presence. Setting his rations down, Corbyn got up and walked out of the range of the lights of the camp and looked out into the tall grass.
Hello? Who's there?
He heard a rustling nearby and held his lightsaber at the ready, his finger on the switch.
This is Commander Roth of the Galactic Republic. Come forward immediately.
The rustling grew louder as Corbyn looked into the grass as it began to shift and separate, until a small fuzzy creature with a long nose and flat ears walked out and looked at him, growling. Corbyn sighed and put away his lightsaber until he heard another sound.
Pakini? Pakini, where are you?
Corbyn looked out into the grass.
Hello? Who's there? Are you looking for a fuzzy, weird thing?
The rustling grew louder as a young woman stepped out of the grass into the light, wearing a red jacket.
Oh, hi, sorry to disturb you. I'm looking for my pet?
Corbyn pointed down at the creature as it sniffed his boot.
Oh, Pakini, there you are. Bad Pugway, no running off.
Corbyn looked curiously at the girl as she picked up the creature and smiled.
Sorry to disturb you.
Her expression turned from kindness to shock as she saw Corbyn's Republic armor.
Oh, you're with the Republic forces?
Corbyn nodded.
Sorry, I shouldn't be intruding.
Corbyn smiled a little.
Hey, relax. It's fine. I'm Corbyn. What's your name?
The girl smiled and held out her hand.
Kiana. Nice to meet you, Corbyn.
Corbyn took her hand and smiled.
Commander, no locals at the camp.
Corbyn looked back and nodded at one of the passing clones.
Sorry, but you have to keep moving. Rules are rules.
Right. Thank you again for finding Pakini.
Corbyn nodded.
No trouble at all. Stay safe.
With that, the girl smiled and ran back towards the city. Corbyn smiled and felt a levity he hadn't experienced in a while. It wasn't often he had the chance to just talk to someone. At least not someone who wasn't directly involved in the war.
Corbyn?
Corbyn's attention was turned to Master Terran, who approached him.
What are you doing by yourself?
Corbyn looked from the field to his master.
I just prefer to eat alone.
Very well. I spoke to Governor Ludovic. He's worried about a separatist retaliation. So we'll be staying here for another month.
Corbyn's head turned sharply.
Another month?
I admit it's not an ideal situation. But if we were to abandon the planet now without making sure the Separatist threat is properly dealt with, the Governor could cut ties with the Republic. We cannot afford to squander our allies, young Padawan.
Doesn't Cartea have a military? Why are we being forced to stick around when we've done more than enough?
Be silent, Corbyn. We are to do as we are ordered. You would do well to mend your attitude.
Corbyn clenched his fists and sighed.
Where are you going, Corbyn?
Off to bed, Master. Might as well get comfortable seeing as how I'm stuck here.
Corbyn left his master, who shook his head and sighed, as the tired Padawan got to his tent and lay down on his mat, looking up at the fabric of the tent, counting the stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, until he fell asleep.